going to talk about the things you need to know before you really start to improvise. And then we'll get into like maybe how I put together my blues improvisation and the different things that go into that. So we've talked about that a little bit already, but I'm going to go over like what you should really be practicing on a regular basis and what are the things that you need to be like really good at to learn how to do this. Just give me a second. I'm still messing with the lights here a little bit. Okay, so the first thing you need to know when you're learning to improvise are chords. So you need to know your major and minor chords everywhere on the piano. So this improvisation is a little bit higher level of a topic, but it's still worth listening to, even if you're not quite there yet. When you're not, you might be in those beginning stages of your piano playing. It's still useful to listen to this because you will still learn what improvisation is all about, and it will kind of direct you if you wanted to go that route, what you should be learning and what you should be practicing. So chords, major chords, starting on flat notes and not flat notes. So as you notice, some of the major chords, the C major chord, all white keys, right? F major chord, same thing, all white keys. G major, all white keys. But what about like D major? D major has a sharp in the middle. So check back to my music theory playlist. If you're watching this later on, don't do it now if you're attending the stream. But to check out all the chords. I think I have a chords playlist as well. So that playlist section I have on the channels is really useful. So you want to learn all your chords starting on different notes. So you want to know that you like every major chord has generally 3 notes. I mean, they're called triads for a reason. Tri meaning 3. So you have your root, and then you have, which is the bottom note, your third. The root is also sometimes called the first. It's just the first note of the scale that you're in. So you hit, if you said wanted to play E major, you'd hit E, and then you would count up 4 half steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, to what you call the third. And that's, it's weird because it's the second note of the chord, but it's called a third because it's really the third note of the scale based on the first note that you start. So it does get a little complicated, but let's not overcomplicate it. So every triad has a root, a third, and a fifth, right? So you have your root, and then 4 half steps away, you have a third, and then 3 half steps above that, you have your fifth. So you want to practice playing these in different spots. A major chord, you'll know right away, sounds happy, right? It sounds major. So if you play something like that, that's not right. That's probably not right. It sounds close, but that sounds even better, right? So if it sounds sad, or it sounds crunchy, as I call it, or crazy, then chances are you're off by a little bit. So it's just important to know all your major chords, no matter where they start. I just played them, I pretty much have them memorized by now. Minor chords, same thing. Minor chords, the opposite. You play your root, count up 3 half steps, and then you count up 4. So it's the opposite of last time. That was 4 and then 3. And you want to be able to play those everywhere too. I'm trying to play them really fast, seeing if I can actually mess it up. Ooh, that one almost got me. Alright, I think I played through almost all of them. I played some of them twice, obviously. So that's how good you want to be at this. You want to be just nail it every time. It takes a lot of time, and you always want to go around the keyboard. You might want to learn like 4 major chords per week. One week you might want to learn C major, F major, G major, and then C major. You want to do them with both hands, by the way, because this will come in handy later, trust me. You might also want to play them as arpeggios. And that'll come in handy too, because when I do the B-flat blues, I do that kind of what we call an arpeggio, where you play one of the chord at a time. So one week you want to learn C major, F major, and G major, and then maybe like another week you can learn D major, A major, and one other one. So maybe add like 3 a week and just be able to play those no matter what, super easy. Okay, Rich, do I think it's a good idea to play sheet music that you've that's above your current playing level? Absolutely, it's good for that, or that's a good idea. Yeah, well, yes and no. It can't be way, way, way above your level to where you'll never learn it or it will take too long. But it should your new stuff you learn should always just be just out of your current reach. Okay, so back to improvisation for now. So you want to be a master at chords. That is important topic number one. The other important topic is scales. You want to be really good at your scales, because this is generally what you're going to be deriving your melodies from. So I know them so well that I can basically talk to you at the same time and play them all. And I know I have like a tiny bit of trouble, but for the most part I can do it and talk at the same time. So hey, that's how well I know all these. Leave that one. Minor scale, same thing. That was major scales, by the way. See, I don't know these as well because I probably can't. I know them pretty well, though. I need to think about the minors a little bit just because there's a little bit more going on when you play them. Whoops. And I also play what's called the harmonic minor scale. I'm not going to get too into it, but just in case you have picked that out. Okay, so let us take a look at another thing you want to learn. You also want to learn generally what notes in that scale are what. So you have 8 notes in a scale, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you want to know that, like in C major, that C major is the first one, E is the third, G is the fifth. Oh, hey, that's a C major chord. And then you want to know that like A is the sixth, and generally where the notes are located. You just kind of want to know where they're at. So practice your scales a lot. Understand what notes are sharp and flat in each scale, and play them often, and play your chords often, major and minor. Another thing is you want to also experiment with different scales. So you do like, you know, Mixolydian and the different modes as well. You can also do pentatonic scale, which I derive I create the blues from. I will play the B flat blues for you, by the way. Okay, so let's take a look. Chord progressions. I'm just kind of winging it here today. I don't have like a PowerPoint or anything in front of me, but chord progressions is another thing that you want to be good at. So what does that mean? Well, that means chord progression is a progression of chords. So for instance, if you're in C major, there's eight notes in a scale, right? I just said that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You want to know your 1 chord, which is built on the first note of the scale, also called the tonic chord, in case you're wondering. You want to be able to know where the 4th chord is. That happens to be F major in this case, also called the subdominant. Your 5th chord, which is just 1 note up from there. And you want to go back to your 1st chord. So this is a progression of chords. So 1st chord, 4th chord, 5th chord, and 1st chord again. You can of course try playing those in arpeggios. And I don't think that would be a bad idea to practice. You don't even play them in different patterns. Just like that. You want to be able to do that 1, 4, 5 progression in almost every key. So you can do it in like G major. Oh, why did I hit an F sharp there? Well, because in G major you have 1 sharp. So you have to be good at your key signatures or your scales as well. Played, you know, the 1, 4, 5 progression and just 4 or 5 keys. So eventually it'll take years, well, maybe not years, but it'll take a while. Could take some of us years, and it took me years to be able to play these this well. You know, I went to music school, I played scales and all these other things for a very long time each day. And it paid off, I would say. You know, some days I have like an off day where I don't know, little bit of brain fog, I guess. Always important to get enough sleep and things like that. But yeah, I don't know. You just got to practice it and 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 practice it once more, and you'll have it then. But it requires a lot of practice. But you generally want to know, to recap, chords, major and minor ones. You also want to know about seventh chords if you're learning blues or something like that. Probably a good idea. But you also want to know about chord progressions. What are some different chord progressions for the style of music you want to improvise in? 1-4-5-1 is just one of millions and millions of examples. You could use any combination of chord if it sounded good, I guess. But you want to be familiar with the most common ones. And you want to be able to play those progressions in any key. You want to start with the easy ones, though. You want to learn like 3 keys at a time, just like you learn 3 chords at a time. So, 1 week you might want to do C major, like I talked about, but not only do the C major chord, but the C major scale, and then maybe like G major and D major, and then the next week maybe do 3 more. You might have to go at a slower pace, and you might only be able to do 1 per week, and don't feel bad. I did 1 per week probably when I first learned them, but now, well, I already have them learned, so I wouldn't learn 3 per week. I guess it doesn't make any sense. But all right, how's everybody doing? Okay, I'm going to answer some questions. It looks like we have a bunch. Okay, Manny has some trouble looking at both staves, whoever, depending on who you ask, at the same time. And then what is it? Is there something I can do to help it? This is going to sound terrible. Not terrible, actually, but it is the best advice. So if you want to get better at something, you know what you do? You do it more often. Like you do. If you're learning how to first drive, you're not very good at it, right? So you keep doing it every day, and then hopefully, some people never get good at driving, obviously. But hopefully someday you will get really, really good at it. But that's not the only thing I'll tell you. You want to... When you first learn piano, it's fine to look at your hands, right? You got to know where your hands are located. And even as you become more advanced, you still want to glance down at your hands. But once you get further along, you want to be looking at your music, almost all the time, glancing down once in a while, especially if something doesn't sound right, to correct yourself. But in general, you want to be looking at the music, and... what's weird is because when my first teacher first told me about this, I didn't believe him. But when he reads music, and I do it now too as best I can, I'm getting a lot better actually. And this took years of experience. You almost want to be looking a little bit ahead of where you are. But I think even before you get there, you just have to train yourself to look at both. And the key thing is when you're trying to process 2 lines of information at once, what should you do? What will make it easier for your brain to assimilate the information? Well, slow it way, way down, but keep your eyes focused on the music as much as you can, and play it at a speed where you can manage that. If you feel like you can't keep up with both staves at the same time, then you need to slow it down. There could also be another problem. You might just have to practice one of your clefs a little bit more. So I don't know whether you're better at treble clef or bass clef. I'm about equally masterful at both, not to brag, but I can read notes up and down on that clef like nobody's business, and it's like nothing. And I remember years and years and years ago, probably when I was your age and a little bit younger, but it was definitely even when I was your age, I was a lot better at reading treble clef than bass clef. So what should you do, right? Well, what did I first say? You want to do it more, and you'll get better at it, which is the key. It sounds so simple, but it's really it. But you also want to go slow enough to where you can process the information. So go slow and just keep going at it over and over again, and you'll get there. Okay, let's see. There's some people here. Are all the triads played with fingers 1, 3, 5? No. There's some that are, well... what we call root position triads are all 1, 3, 5. Let me make sure I'm right. Some of the minor ones you can play with 1, 2, 5, but 1, 3, 5. So what I mean by root position is that means, I probably said it before actually, but for somebody just checking in, you have, wait, let me see really quick. Oh, you're welcome, Manny. So it means that you have the name of the chord on the bottom. So like if I have C major, C is on the bottom. That is a root position. And you can tell a root position chord when you see one because it's evenly stacked. And on paper, it almost looks like a snowman, right? So let me point this out really quick. No. All right, let's see. Okay, so here we go. So root position triad. Looks like that. It looks like a snowman, basically, evenly stacked. And then what you do for root position, or first inversion, you take the bottom note and you move it to the top, keeping the other two notes where they are. So on paper, or on music paper, and by the way, the fingering for this is now 1, 2, 5, not 1, 3, 5. That's really because we changed the spacing. So that's where the fingering comes into this whole explanation. And then you invert it one more time. And it's actually 1, 3, 5 again. So really whatever is most comfortable, with some of them. What's kind of weird is with that A flat minor, I kind of want to play it with 1, 2, 4. But whatever is comfortable for you. But for all root position triads, generally 1, 3, 5 will fit the bill. And then depending on what inversion you have, it will change again. And there's only 2 inversions for a triad. Why is that? I'll let somebody answer that. Let me see if there are any more questions. Okay, so Rich says, I tried to read bass clef and then treble clef when I was first practicing sight reading. Okay. I didn't have a system of reading each clef, and it would confuse me. Reading bottom to top helped me. Interesting. So maybe your brain works that way. You know, I might do the same thing, because I often tell students when I'm reading notes to them from the bottom to the top. Like I say, okay, E, G, C. And you know what's funny is I sometimes forget to mention this to new students, and I'll say E, G, C. And they'll think I mean the other way. Which actually you can't even play with one hand unless you have like a monster hand. I'm sure somebody out there can do it. Maybe like Stevie Ray Vaughan, or I guess B.B. King passed away, but he could probably do it. But anyway, yeah, bottom to top I think works pretty well. Now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure I do it. I can almost spot them on sight though. Like right away when I see that, it's like, oh, C major chord first inversion, not a big deal. Like I almost process things in groups now. Like when you get really good, you'll do that. But reading them from bottom to the top, I think works great. And that's a great tip, Rich, actually, by the way, because I don't think I've ever mentioned that at all. Because I didn't really think about it. I just kind of, like I said, because once you get far enough along, sometimes you kind of forget what little things may be going through, not little things, but little details, I mean to say, going through the mind of a beginner. So it's great to hear these little tips, because often I agree with them. And they're just things I haven't thought about in a long time. All right, drink time. Drink of water, by the way, if you're wondering. I'll get too sleepy otherwise. Okay, so you got it. What are the things that we talked about? Well, we talked about chords, chord progressions, and your scales and your keys. You need to be a master at a lot of those. That's just the way it is. And it takes some time. Now here's where you put it together. You're going to start out with chord progressions with your left hand. I'm just going to do the one we talked about. C, F, G, scale, I'm actually going to improvise a melody. Now I'm not going to play the scale all in order, kind of like I did the other day, or the other week rather, just like that. But that's generally where I'm deriving all this stuff and coming up with it. Chords and chord progressions left hand, melody right hand. Now does it always have to be like that? No. And I'm right-handed, so that's a little bit more of a challenge for me, but generally this way. Oops. And if you want something that sounds good right away, stick to chord tones. So if your chord is C, E, G, use C, E, G up top. If it's F, A, and C, use F, A, and C up top. But if you want to get fancy, you can start to use what they call non-chord tones, notes that don't belong in the chord at all. Kind of like that. I don't know, I'm kind of like thinking at the same time, coming up with it, but let's see. Okay, a rhythmic solo. So that was just an example of what you can do with all this stuff. A rhythmic solo, if you might be talking about comping, which is kind of a rhythmic. I mean, you can even do rhythm in the melody. So it depends on what kind of style you're going on. So obviously doing like straight quarter notes. Whoops. You know, sounds okay, but you can try putting a swing to it. Swing means you are lengthening the first eighth note and shortening the second one, almost like you have a dotted eighth note with a 16th note on. Yeah, that does come with time, Rich. But yeah, so Manny, I'm not sure. Are you talking about like a comping solo, which would be purely like rhythm and chords? In which case, same thing applies. So start out with like maybe straight quarter notes, then eighth notes, and try putting a swing to it. Long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short. And then maybe changing up the last two beats. So 1, 2, yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so I did swinging eighths. So notice how I changed the rhythm in the middle. Yeah. You can even do it with the right hand notes. Okay, yeah, so you're like improvising a melody on top with, you know, maybe chords on the bottom, but you're at least, you have your solo. Okay, so you're like the feature, right? You didn't say that before. So, yeah, so come with different rhythms. You want to start simple. That sounds really boring, but then try changing it up. You know, maybe like... You know, put a little bit of a swing into it, or maybe you can even do part of it triplet. Let me write this on here, actually. So, here's how it's going to go down. Here's our improvised melody. That's not going to be so improvised because it's cheating. It's on paper, but that's okay. Let me see. So we're in the key of C. We're just going to make things real easy so I can, you know, write them out quickly. Okay, so bump-a-da. Okay, so far we just have a C major scale coming down. Very basic. And then we're going to do like a 4-measure thing. So probably what I'll do is write some quarter notes coming back up. And we'll end it right there. Whoa. There we go. All right, let's take a listen. I don't know how well you'll be able to hear this, but I can play it on the piano if need be. Yeah, pretty like plain, right? And this is actually a lot like the song that we wrote now a few weeks ago. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to take the exact same thing. That we're actually not writing a song, but I'm going to show you generally like how you can make things more interesting. So say this was a solo you had. This was your first shot at it. And you're like, it's okay. You know, it doesn't sound as good as it could. So I'm going to show you how to make these better just from a visual perspective of what I'm talking about. So you want to copy, paste. Well, I copy and paste, but just showing you. So anyway, let us change the notes around. So maybe this time I'm going to double the 8th notes. Why not, right? None of that worked. That was terrible. This is why you do them one at a time on staff pad. There we go. All right. Whoa. And then I've added a bunch of notes by accident. But that's actually another thing you could do. You could actually add some notes on top. So why not? I'll just roll with it. So instead of now just having... And that was the beginning of our melody, right? It was very plain. It really was not very good. Now we have... Whoops. So we've doubled up on those notes in thirds, right? Because the third, you can tell right away, like if the first one's a space, right? So these are thirds. Here's a second, right? Those are right next to each other. A third actually looks like the beginning of a major or minor chord in root position. But basically, we've transformed it into something slightly more interesting. I think it sounds a lot better already, to be honest. And we really didn't do that much. We doubled the notes as 8th notes, and then for that second measure, I just kind of made them as chords. So you can do that when you improvise too. And it will sound good most of the time, so long as it's fitting in the chord that you're trying to do and within the scale. So that's really why it's really good to be good at your key signatures and things like that. Okay. Well, in terms of improv, Rich, that's another thing you can do. You can play some of them legato and some of them staccato. I just kind of make it up as I go along when I improvise. Like, oh, I think it would sound kind of cool. But generally when I'm doing scale runs, let me think about how I do this. If you have like a line of notes, right? Well, that's kind of a over-exemplified example, but say you're playing a scale. Generally, I connect those notes together, but if I wanted to add a little more flavor, I could, make some of them staccato. Add a like a little flavor to it. I even tried to play the eighth notes as evenly as I could. Just like that. So in terms of improv, it's kind of something you'll get a feel for. You'll be like, oh, you know, I kind of want to change it up a little bit, just like we're talking about now, and do it that way. In terms of music, obviously you'll do wherever the slur line is, you'll slur those in staccato, you know, where they say so. But let's add maybe a little bit more spice to this with that. That was a good thing to add. So let's say we'll slur those and then staccato all these, right? Why not? And that was not what I meant to do at all. Here. Got most of them. 3 out of 4 isn't bad. There we go. So here we go. Here's now what it is. Yeah, a little more flavor to it. Take a listen to that. Here's what it was in the beginning, remember? And it wasn't, you know, very good, but now here's what it is. Sounds a lot more interesting, I think, already. It's not, you know, perfect. We could always do more things to it. So, and then you remember the second half of our melody was something like this. Actually, I want to move that to a D. And that was the end. So let's talk about what are some ideas, guys. I want, and girls, hopefully there's some girl here. Would be nice. All right. So anyway, I want some ideas. How am I going to make the end of this melody more interesting? Think about some of the things we talked about. What can I change to make this more interesting? Because this is exactly the melody that we had before, the second half, and it sounds okay, right? Like it blends okay. But what are some things we can add to make it better? I'll take anybody's suggestion so long as it is reasonable. Yeah, Rich, great question, or not really question, statement. In the second measure, you can jump or play legato. I don't know which one's better. Yeah, you totally could. That sounds fine too. Oops. Sounds absolutely fine. You could even swap them. That sounds cool too. If you're going for that, that actually has more of a mellow sound to it than, I don't know, it just sounds a little bit different. So you always want to be playing around, again, with your articulations, we call these, your legatos, your staccatos. You can even make some of it louder. You could go, you know, like start loud and get softer. And hey, that sounds a lot better. You know, anything you can add to these notes, whether it's, you know, doubling them as eighth notes, making them slurred, or staccatoed. I guess staccatoed's a word, I don't know. But anyway, what are some things, that was a great point Rich made, by the way. What are some things we can add to the other two measures? And with two triads, okay. Why not? I think that's cool. Oh, my eyes. I'm actually not getting tired, it's just the lights. Ugh. And they're actually not even my eyes that bad. It's just, I don't know, dries them out. All right, and with two triads, why not? Turn the third measure into 4 triplets. Okay. And Manny, I'll get to your question in a minute. Turn the third measure into 4 triplets. Okay, interesting. Yeah, all right, let's do that. That's cool. And then I'll do what Rich said in a second. Whoa, okay. Oops. Well, that was not what I was expecting, but okay. Oops. There we go. Wow. All right. Let's see. And then, yeah, let's see how it sounds so far, and then we'll work in Rich's idea here in a second. All right. All right, here we have it. Remember, triplet, triplet. That sounds cool, actually. Triplet, triplet, triplet. Actually, it's 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Just to make sure we got the numbers in there, if you remember from our counting lesson a few weeks ago. Oops. Sounds cool. Let me play the whole new section all at once. So here we go. Not bad. We still have to change that last measure. But here's what we had in the beginning. Remember? Meh. It's okay. Oops. I think it'd be really cool with these triplets to put, where is it? Ooh, crescendo. Yep, boom. I think it'd be really cool to have a crescendo there. I'm not sure if it has it for, oh, there you go, boom. I'm like Emerald today, bam. All right, so we've got, if you know who Emerald is. Got louder at the end, why not? Add some spice. And then let's add with 2 triads. Okay, let's see. Thank you, Rich, by the way. So let's end with 2 triads. Let's try with this. They're going to be C major triads, or at least one of, well. So this was, what I did here was, this is C major triad. I moved it up to first inversion. I did 2 of them, but that's kind of boring, right? Let's think of maybe doing something to the chords. Maybe, well, this one is getting out of the music theory realm, or the music theory we've talked about. So let me think. Any idea on what to do with the 2 chords to make them a little bit better? You know, whether it's make them staccato, or make them loud, or make them something else. I mean, related to chords, obviously. So any ideas on the very end, other than the chords there? Oh, 1 triad in each clef. Okay. Well, there's a couple ways we could do this. Like that, Rich, that would be in both hands, or I could do like right hand first, left hand. That would make it more interesting. Like if I had like this. Whoops. And this is what actually I've written right now. And that's okay. I think that's actually pretty decent, but let me see. I don't know. I'm going to kind of take control right now, and I'm going to do this because I think this sounds the best to me. So that's another point, is play around with things a little bit and see what works best for you. Oops. So I took right hand first, left hand, and I just played that on the piano a few times. And I was like, well, that's what sounds the best. And then I really think this will sound great with a root position triad down here. Here we go. There you go, not bad. How about we add a C at the bottom? Oops. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Oh, nice slow end. Sorry, Sheska, got ahead of you. No, I don't think it was too simple, Rich. If that's what you meant, I mean, I changed it up a little bit, but I generally took your idea where you have one in one hand, one in the other hand. Rich, good question. Not for a while. I wrote some things, if you can find them, on, if they even, do they even have MySpace anymore? Who knows? But I used to have songs on MySpace, like a couple, like maybe 4 or 5. That's more than a couple, but just a few. If I find them, I'll let you know. It's been years. Oh no, I wrote a song. You know what? I got into a project last year where I was trying to, and I actually ran out of time, like free time to accomplish this. So let me see. I'll tell you what. See what the thing says. Okay. I actually wrote this song like last summer. I don't know if you can hear it. So obviously it has a lot of instruments to it, not just piano. That's not me on guitar, but I used a program called Ableton Live to write this. I did write everything on piano first, by the way, using the exact same stuff I did today, or we talked about today, so that's what you can do with it someday, I guess. I could do better on the claps. I was still working on getting everything, right. There you go. So there's a sample. I did a bunch of those. And then what I was going to do is I was going to put them on a site called Audio Jungle. And people who use them for like commercials and stuff, or like anything, like corporate videos or anything, they can buy licenses to them there. But I never got far enough in the process to like post them there, because I got involved in this lesson on the Web Academy thing, which I had been involved with at the time, because that was only last year. I was still doing this. But I just had a little time in the extra in the summer. Yeah, now that I listen to it, I guess I should pick it back up, because I think if I kept at it, I could write something pretty good, and hopefully somebody would buy it, and that would give me more resources to spend on the online academy and stuff. So I don't know. There's so many things to do. It's crazy. Thanks, Shesk. Thank you, Rich. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going for. So I don't know. I mean, if you guys think they're good, then maybe I'll come back to it, and I can even make some videos on how I make these. Maybe what I would do is maybe I could just write it. Oh man, I could like live stream it, like just me writing a song, and then obviously like I'd be more focused on that. Like you guys might maybe I'd like answer a question every once in a while. But it'd probably be mostly just me writing the song, maybe talking a little bit into the microphone about what my thought process is. So maybe I could do both. Maybe I could like make content and make content, which is music. So I'll think about getting back into it this summer. I might have a little bit more time. But the amount of stuff I plan for the next month, maybe not months, years, is crazy. But I'll see. All right, so thanks everybody. That was really cool for me to share that with you. I totally forgot about that. So maybe I'll pick that back up this summer. That'd be kind of fun. And then I can teach you how to write things in Ableton Live. It's a little bit different of experience, but you kind of like, use the chords and everything we talked about tonight, and you apply those in Ableton Live. So it's a different format, but if you learn, it's kind of cool. It's fun to play around with. Especially fun to play around with a, what is that thing called? It's like I have one. Let me show you. I'm not going to hook it up now because I don't have it installed on my new computer, but just give me a second. So I totally don't remember what this thing is. But, Launchpad. It's an Ovation Launchpad. And what you do, I'll answer some questions in a second. What you do is you assign, like, it works with Ableton, and you assign, like, different tracks that you created. So if I could assign that to, like, this button. So every time I press this button, it goes, or something like, exactly what I just played. And then, I could record another one and assign it to this one. Then do another one and do like a bunch of them and assign it. And then I could like literally do a song live, or I could even compose with this just by being like, okay, this is the first sound clip I did. This is the next one. This is the next one. This is what this thing actually looks like, by the way. I think I can get it in frame a little bit better. But I assign each thing to each one of these buttons. That's how that works. It's very dusty because I haven't used it in like a while. I feel so bad. Poor Launchpad. I'll get back to you someday. Okay. Manny says write some slow blues. Yeah, I'll do that tonight. No, I'm just kidding. Not tonight, but I will do it. So I'll show you how to apply this to blues. I was going to do that tonight, but I think it's going to stretch out way too long. But I did show you how to make things more interesting. So just remember, before I answer some questions, that what did we talk about tonight? Well, you kind of have a basis of your chords, right? Your scale. And that sounds okay, but you can always change things up by, changing certain notes, doubling some, making some legato, staccato, or you can do the opposite. And then this one, just like that. I think that sounds awesome. Okay, what is it like studying music in college? Is there a lot of performing or mostly music theory courses? Equally both, I guess, if I had to say. Lots of performing, though. You have to play in front of everybody. Like, you play in front of your peers, so people your own, well, it depends on how old you are when you go in. But people in your class, you know what I mean? And then your professor, you're going to have to play for him a lot, or her. And you have to play for the other school professors as well during the jury, which is always, people always struggle with that, but I did fine with it. It's a nerves thing. because you play in front of all the school teachers. Kinda. I mean, it is at first, and then you get really good, and then it works out good. It works out well, and you start a YouTube channel online and teach people locally, and make a hopefully a career out of it. I'm doing well so far, but there's definitely some improvement to be made. But yeah, I mean, it's worth it if you ever wonder if it's worth it or not. Totally. Manny says, "What were your college regulations for music? Meaning like what were the requirements to finish? Well, the requirements to get in was you had to learn so many songs. Um, yeah, you had to learn like 3 or 4 songs, and they had to meet some kind of requirement. So it's different for every school. Some schools want contrast. A lot of them want contrasting time periods, so they want you to play something from a long time ago, like 1700s, and they want you to be able to play something from the 1900s, like early 1900s, things like that, and in different styles. So they would want you to play something in blues. They probably want you to play something in classical. And now that's pretty tough to get into a music school, some of them. Getting out is the tricky part. Getting out depends on the school. But in general, you have to take a core class or a core of classes. So you need to take, where I went, 4 levels of music theory. You need to take 4 aurals classes, which is ear training. 4 of those. Number 2 is really, really hard, by the way, at least for me. So music theory, ear training. You had to take piano every semester if you played piano or whatever instrument may be. You had to take another instrument course, maybe even 2 or 3 of those. I'm serious. Most people in college, you have about 5 courses in a semester. A music student, at least where I went, you had 15, maybe, like 12. I had 12 to 15. Some had 20, and they were insane because they wanted to graduate early. I don't think that worked out well because they were just too overworked. But like 12 to 15 classes in a semester. You had to take choir or band. Marching band was optional. I didn't do marching band nearly as much in college as I did in high school because I just didn't have the time. And what else? You had to do studio class. What that was is you played in front of everybody. What I talked about. You had to take extra classes, like I took jazz harmonies class, and I took what was it? Pop and rock class. Like we learned how to write pop music, and there wasn't really a whole lot on improvisation. I learned that a lot on my own, but I also learned that through the jazz courses I took. But that wasn't like a huge expectation. Sight reading we had to do, but that was part of the piano. For piano, I didn't even talk about that really yet. For whatever instrument you have a course in it, but that's not all. You have to learn like a ton of music for that. Like it's weird because your instrument course or whatever, which is you with your private lesson teacher, is only worth 1.5 credits. So it's not very many. Like most students in other majors, their courses were worth about 3 apiece, and it almost never changed for them. But for us, our courses were worth less. That's why we had to take more per semester. So your instrument course was only 1.5 credits, but it probably took up about 80% of your time, maybe 70 to 80. Maybe a slight over-exaggeration, maybe 60, but it took up a lot of time because you had to get things memorized. You had to be able to play so many scales and things per semester. Now that I think about it, I have no idea how I survived, but I did, and yeah, I mean, it turned me into what I am today. I was nothing compared to what I am today before I went through all that. So, they send you through hell, I guess, but you come back that much stronger. So, totally worth it. It is tough, but really memorable times. Both the people and the learning. It was just kind of cool times that as you get older, you'll look back at sometimes very fondly, and that's one time I did. So, and hopefully, maybe someday, I have things planned out for a long time, but I would like to go back for piano pedagogy, get a master's degree in that, which is piano teaching piano, by the way. I have a master's degree, but it's not in that. It's in computer technology, information technology. So that's why I'm able to set all this crazy stuff up. Okay, I have a ton of questions. We have a music college in town. They are often in the town square performing things to practice. The public eyes on them. Yeah, that's true. You will have to play in public. I did not take music performance, Manny. I started out as a music education major. And then I took a lot of the education classes and then decided I didn't want to teach in a public school for a lot of reasons. Many, many reasons, actually. If you've attended public school, you probably know what I'm talking about. And the education in public schools is not supported, especially music, not like it should, in my opinion. So I just kind of decided to do my own independent thing. And what I did was towards the end, I changed from music education to music and business. So luckily I got some of the education background that I needed. But then I started taking business classes, which actually helped a lot later on, right now. So be a little flexible when you first go to college. Don't quit. Like if you have a hard time and you want to quit, most times you probably shouldn't. It depends on who you are, but most times you shouldn't. You should just kind of try to find something that works for you, and that's what I tried my very best to do. Can you begin a music education in college, or only if you did during grade school or high school? If you can pass the audition, it doesn't matter. I don't think so. I mean, if you knew everything and you played, you passed the audition, like the things you need to do to get in, like the songs I talked about, play songs of different backgrounds and things like that. I would be very surprised if they didn't let you in, to be honest. I mean, so long as you have a high school diploma, you do need a high school diploma, I mean, to apply for college, at least most of them. But it doesn't need to be in music. So if you have a high school diploma, it's very general, and you just started lessons now, you got your high school diploma years ago, maybe, that should be totally fine. Like, I really wouldn't see why it wouldn't be. Some require you to take the SATs, so, maybe if you haven't taken them in a long time, or you haven't taken them yet, you'd have to do that. But only sometimes. I honestly think if you have the music chops, and you know what you're talking about, you know some theory and things, you had to know theory too a little bit, they should let you in. Maybe surprised. So it's never too late, and you can always start. Now I'm starting to get tired. Okay, let's see. Yeah, Manny, it will come in practice. So apply what we learned today. Went over it a bunch. By the way, if you're watching this video or right now, give it a thumbs up if you learned something. I saw lots of nice comments, so I know somebody learned something this evening. And I learned, what's interesting is I always learn teaching you or teaching anybody, really. I'm not allowed to leave. I need to leave soon because, I don't know, I'm starting to feel it. It's that time, 9:04. We're at about an hour. I've been talking for a long time, Rich. Very long time. I need you guys to talk for me. I'm just kidding. But I think we'll wrap it up here in a few minutes. So, I can't stop yawning. It's just because you said that. I just had to yawn some more. I thought it was a great stream, and I'm surprised we didn't have any newcomers today. But like I said, I'm going to really think about getting some more people in here to join us. What does I want to know if you want to answer? How does everybody find the stream each week? Like, what's like? Do you go onto the main page